Hey guys, Eric Cogorno here with Performance Golf. Today's video is all about how to hinge the wrists. Now, like a lot of things in the golf swing, if you're able to hinge the wrist correctly and get it correct early on, it's very easy to be consistent and get that solid ball striking we all want. But if you hinge the wrist incorrectly early on, there's so much to make up for later on. So it's so important that we get this part right. There's three really key checkpoints I'm going to guide you through. There's one little trick as to how you do it, and there's a simple way to train it. I'm going to show you all that in today's video. Now, in terms of the checkpoints, there's three things that I'm always looking for that the best ball strikers do. Okay, maybe we'll put these on the screen, 1, 2, and 3. The first checkpoint I'm looking for is really like how much hinge should we have by when? And one of the key checkpoints you'll see is good ball strikers are able to hinge the club about 90 degrees. That'd be the angle between the lead arm and shaft, by the time their lead arm is parallel to the ground on the way back. So this would be like no hinge, 180, that's no good. This is like too much hinge, right? We're looking for about 90 degrees of hinge by about left arm parallel. The second checkpoint is the angle that they hinge the club up. And I'm gonna just pull this in to show you. Notice I've got this orange alignment rod behind the golf ball. That was what we call the ball target line. It's kind of a line from the golf ball to the target that extends back forever. Not only do good ball strikers get the club hinged to about 90, the angle that they hinge the club on, like this way or this way, is very specifically pointed at or just inside that ball line. At or just inside that ball line. So when they go back, the angle you hinge it on is very important, okay, at or inside that. And the third part, and this is kind of the trick of it, this is where most people go off. I've got to hinge the wrist to 90, okay, cool. I've got to hinge it roughly on plane, okay. But the piece that a lot of people miss is that the best ball strikers get their lead wrist, which is slightly cupped or angled at setup, to about flat by that same spot, okay? So about flat. So the three checkpoints one more time, 90 degrees, on plane, flat lead wrist. If you can do those, everything else is really easy. And we're gonna do that in one motion in just a minute. Now, getting the wrist from this cupped position at setup or angled to flat is really the trick of this whole thing. So do this with me. Hold the club with your lead hand, your normal grip, and you should notice you've got a little angle in that left wrist. Now, if we just hinge the club, think like thumb up towards your body, notice what happens to the angle in your wrist. It gets bigger, or there's more angle to it, okay, that cup or extension. So anytime you hinge your wrist up, that adds more angle. Now the problem with that is when that adds more angle in the golf swing, that makes the shaft too steep and that makes the club face too open. Okay, the best ball strikers are able to flatten their lead wrist to help shallow the shaft and close the club face. Now it's very important that we do this pretty early on, right? We need to be able to get rid of this cup in our left wrist and get that to flat. The key question is, how do we do that? And the answer lies in the trail hand. So when we're looking at the hinging, your lead wrist is responsible for the up and down motion, right? If I kind of like a hammer here, the club goes up, the club goes down. That's what this part's responsible for. Now the trail wrist is responsible for the back and forth motion. So when I make my backswing, I'm certainly trying to hinge my wrist up, right? But to offset that cupping motion, I need to hinge my trail wrist back, okay?
Most golfers don't realize this, but every player has about 5 swing flaws. The key to improving isn't trying to fix them all, it's knowing which one to work on first. Because when you fix the right one, it creates this amazing domino effect that clears up multiple other flaws automatically. At Performance Golf, we use this cool process called the immersion method to find and fix your root swing flaw. This is a 48-hour in-person experience. You'll work directly with me or one of the other world-class coaches to fix the one thing that's been holding your game back. We'll keep our groups small at beautiful locations across the country, and the progress I see is incredible. Dennis, for example, dropped 8 shots after fixing his root flaw. How great is that?
My golf game has improved by 8 to 9 shots. I starting to love the game of golf a little more. I'm not getting near as frustrated. Before the school, I was handicapped 26.6, slicing real bad to the right. Couldn't hit my irons flush.
If this sounds like the breakthrough you've been waiting for, click below and see if there's a spot open. This could be the one thing that takes your game to that next level.
Hinging in general does two really important things for us. If I made a swing and I did no hinging, right? And I swung through and didn't hinge my wrist at all, I'm gonna go ahead and hit a ball like that so you can see. This would be a no hinge shot on the way back or through. Yeah, perfect. Literally hit the stick in front of me and the ball was topped, right? Did you see that? So when I don't hinge, two things happen. I have no speed, so the ball doesn't go anywhere, and I have no angle of attack. So I either pick the ball off the ground or I top it like I just did there. When I add speed and add hinge to it, that's gonna allow me to hit the ball farther, right? So I have more speed, and it also allows me to hit down more. This motion where I hinge the club up, right? What goes up, what? Must come down. So me hitting the ground on the way through is from the wrist hinging up and hinging back down. I have to have wrist hinge to get enough power, right? Watch the difference in this shot when I add my wrist hinge. So that ball, you know, my normal, I've got an 8-iron, it's probably 165 yards. I hit the first one like 20, okay? Now that was exaggerated, obviously, but if you have no hinge, you have no power and you have no divot, okay? No angle of attack. So we have to have that in there. What are those three key checkpoints I said, right? 90 degrees, shaft on plane, left wrist flat. Now, how we do that is with a little drill here that I'm gonna show you. It's a little two-part drill. The first thing I want you to do with your left hand only 3 times is hinge the club up in front of you. It's okay that it cups. And we'll hinge it to about 90 degrees here, right, with my lead arm. A little past that's okay. And hinge it down and make a thud of the ground. That's 1. Hinge it up, down, that's 2. Hinge it up, down, that's 3. That's the left wrist motion you're looking for, right there. When I do that and add my body turn, that puts me in a perfect spot. Now the trail wrist motion, we're trying to get to bend back, right? Bend back this way. So how I want you to train this with your right hand, we'll combo them in a second. Right hand grip on. We're gonna make a backswing where you feel like your right wrist bends back, like knuckles to your forearm. In the backswing to the point where, let's say the arm's about parallel to the ground. Now when I do that, notice I'm kind of feeling my right palm and the club face pointed more away from me. So that's 1, bend the right wrist back 2, bend the right wrist back 3. Why do we need to bend the right wrist back? To flatten the left wrist. Right, as soon as I bend that right wrist back, that flattens the left wrist. So now what I like to do is have a little feel for my lead hand, up and down, a little feel for my trail hand, back, and then I want to combo those together. So when you're swinging, you want to feel the lead wrist up, right wrist back combo. I love this feel. That combo feels exactly what I feel. It almost feels to me like my thumbs are kind of hinging up on a 45-degree angle. I feel that right wrist fully hinged back, like as far as I can go. And this lead wrist feels like the thumbs up towards the sky at about that 90-degree angle. So left wrist up, right wrist back. Left wrist up, right wrist back. And I'm doing this in the backswing very progressive, okay? So I'm basically going like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all the way up to 100. Meaning, I'm not gonna be like, set it, hold it. I'm not gonna wait forever and set it real late. I'm gonna very progressively set it on the way back. Left wrist is up, right wrist is back. I'm doing this for power and to be able to make sure I hit ball first, ground second. Left wrist up, right wrist back. And there's another solid. Now I push that a little bit, but I hit that ball very, very solid. Nice and far, ball first, ground second. And that mantra, right, that mantra is what I want you to have. And you can do this on a practice tee or right at home or when you're out on the course. Feel this hammer motion and make sure you thud the ground every time, right? Combine that with that palm away. How far back should I bend my right wrist? As much as you can. Where should it point? Relatively away from you, right? Combo those two in there. Left wrist up, right wrist back into those 3 checkpoints. So the key The key here really, same thing, slight push, very solid. Probably 165-yard 8-iron, just slightly right on my target. I would take that every time. The key is learning to hinge your wrist enough while getting rid of that cup in it. That's the key. You do that with the right wrist bent back. That's wrist hinge. I wanted you to know those details on purpose, so you not only know what to feel, but you know what to look for. Any questions on this, leave us a comment down below. If you found value here, click that like button, consider sending to a friend or subscribing. All of that helps us a lot. Thank you guys for watching.